Hey everyone, welcome to Continuous Thunder. We're back and we're talking about the new album from Bruce Hornsby, Absolute Zero, out now on Zappo Productions. Bruce Hornsby is a keyboardist, multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, singer who is most famous for his work in the 80s. Very specifically, his debut album with his backing band The Range called The Way It Is. And most specifically, the lead single off that album, the title track, The Way It Is. It was a #1 hit, and you should go and listen to it right now. I guarantee you've probably heard it before, but you should go and listen to it. It's amazing. It is a peak 80s, and I absolutely love it. Anyway, he's had a couple other hits from the Range era, including Mandolin Rain and a couple others from a later album, but for the most part, hasn't really hit quite the same success. Hasn't had a real, top 40 hit ever since the 80s and the very, very early 90s. Absolute Zero is Hornsby's 11th studio album, if you don't count his collaborative albums, and the 4th that is a true solo album with no backing band credited on the cover. But Sean, you're probably asking, why should I care about Bruce Hornsby? Why should I care about this album? Why should I care about a 60-year-old singer and songwriter who hasn't had a hit in over 30 years? Why would I care about this? This album is probably just a bunch of cheesy piano ballads with some saxophones on them, singing about dumb things with really shallow songwriting. It's all that these guys usually end up writing. Well, hell, that's where you'd be wrong. You should care about this album because it is not a comeback album. Like I said, it is Hornsby's 11th album, and his most recent one before this was released only 3 years ago. And he has been consistently writing and producing music, and all of it is actually pretty darn good. Everything is on the same caliber as The Way It Is from back in the 80s. And other high-profile people in the music world know who Hornsby is and respect him as an instrumentalist and a songwriter. One of those collaborative albums that I mentioned before was with the legendary bluegrass musician Ricky Skaggs. He has toured extensively, playing over 100 shows with the Grateful Dead in the 80s and the early 90s before Jerry Garcia's death. And Justin Vernon of Bon Iver, yes, that Bon Iver is a huge fan of Bruce Hornsby and thinks you should be too. He actually appears on this album, Absolute Zero. Now that we've talked about why this album should even be on your radar, let's talk about why you should listen to it. Now, while it's true that Hornsby is best known for piano-driven pop rock tunes from the 80s and the early 90s, and the majority of his catalog has been very strong, very well written and composed and arranged pop music built around a piano, this album in particular actually takes some bold steps into some experimental ground. Now, he has experimented before, but everything has still maintained a very pop-centric sound. And even on his more Americana albums where he plays the dulcimer instead of the piano, he's still very firmly rooted in, traditional structures with strong melodies and everything like that. With this album, he takes elements of jazz, of Americana, his familiar pop music and experimental music, and seamlessly, flawlessly melds them all together into one thing. It's the most adventurous album that Hornsby has released in his entire career. And what's impressive about this adventurousness, this experimentation, is that the decades of experience of writing very strong pop music is applied to it and makes the music not only deep and dense and in some ways challenging, but still accessible, and music that you would choose to listen to on a whim. Every track on this album, except maybe one, has some element out of left field. There's the jazziness of the album opener. There's the frenetic nature of fractals, bringing it close to the geometric patterns in the song's title. There's the frantic drum break at the end of another very jazzy track called The Blinding Light of Dreams. There's the lilting orchestral yet still funk and disco influenced Voyager 1 that is just an all-around fun track. There's just something on everything here that just kind of takes it to another level. Even the track that has perhaps the least experimental edge to it, which is the ballad Never in This House, that features E music, Y music, I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm probably getting it wrong. I'm going to go with E music. Someone let me straight in the comments, please. But it's that incorporation of that chamber ensemble that just takes the song to the next level and so perfectly accompanies Hornsby's balladry. In fact, every track that E music is on this album is a highlight for me. They just bring something so special to the arrangement that Hornsby has created. And a true testament to Hornsby's songwriting skills and his arrangement skills and composition is the fact that even on the tracks on this album that I am not the biggest fan of, and there are a couple on here, there is still some element of them that I can point to and say, I see what you're trying to do here. There's something interesting. There's something about the song that I like. It's just the song as a whole just isn't really quite doing it for me. And those tracks, for those who are interested, are Meds and White Noise. Meds in particular, I think, goes a little too long. It gets a little too overblown. However, the features of Justin Vernon and Blake Mills are fantastic, and the just overall composition is very skillful and masterful. It's just the execution doesn't really do it for me. And then White Noise is a very angular, I guess is how I describe it, commentary on mundane 9-to-5 living. And while I appreciate the message, the song overall just seems a little boring to me, and that's really the only thing that I can give it. But the composition is still interesting and does something with its melodic lines that you wouldn't hear every day. Otherwise, every other song on this album I absolutely love, and like I said, with the way he pushes the boundaries and throws experimentation in, I mean, apart from Never in This House, the two most pop-oriented songs, Cast Off and Take You There, the album closer, still have experimental elements. Like Cast Off, which features Justin Vernon, has African drum beats. And it also has this sleepy saxophone that sounds like it came straight out of the self-titled Bon Iver album. And then Take You There still has odd time signatures, and for the bridge it takes this sudden, almost theatrical, experimental turn. But it all works in the overall composition. You don't feel blindsided by sudden weirdness. It all works together. And even the weirdest track on this album, Echolocation, it's a bizarre but yet compelling Americana-tinged experimental track that it moves a little slow, but it just kind of grabs onto you and won't let go. It just kind of begs your attention. Overall, though, I give Absolute Zero a 4 out of 5. I feel with this album, Hornsby has proven that his fate is greater than retrospective tours with encores of The Way It Is and Mandolin Rain for aging boomers. He pushes a lot of boundaries, and he produces a compelling album that is accessible and dense at the same time with a lot of depth, and it has a lot more hits than misses. And I feel like an artist who has been around and producing music as long as he has, to have an artist branch out like this successfully is a major achievement for someone with a track record like Bruce Hornsby. And I feel that it should be acknowledged. But that's going to do it for this round of Continuous Thunder. Thank you so much for watching. I'd like to know your thoughts. Did you listen to this album? Did you like it? Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Go ahead and leave all those down in the comments below. Hopefully there's going to be a little less time between this video and the next one, but we'll see what happens. Quick reminder that you can follow this channel on Twitter at CT Music Review. That link will be down in the description as well. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.